does that even mean, Bowers Game Corner?
Ahoy there, YouTube! I'm back again today for another episode of Games In, Games Out, where I talk about the games that I'm keeping in my collection, the games I'm getting rid of, and the games I'm doing something in between with. So, starting off, we're checking out Dinosaur Tea Party from Restoration Games. This was a great family weight game. Not a game I would ever recommend for people who are not playing in the family game setting, but as a family game, absolutely one I enjoyed, and it's going into my collection immediately. Next, we have Patchwork Express. Now, this is a really odd game because it is a two-player, well, it's patchwork, so it's 2 players, and it's for ages 6+, so it's a very young children's game. I played it in my classroom. It's a great game to help children learn that game and potentially progress on to heavier games. So I will be keeping this game to play with my son as he gets older and also to play in my classroom on the occasion where I play a 2-player game in my classroom. I do like Dinosaur Tea Party better than Patchwork Express, though, if you're wondering. Next, we have Ticket to Ride New York, yet another game that I can play with my son. Age is 8+, but he played it, and he's 5 and 6 years old. He's 5 years old. This is a 15-minute version of Ticket to Ride, and it knocks that out of the park. Now, this is my least favorite version of Ticket to Ride because if you get blocked off, you kind of get screwed over really early. But if you're trying to get someone into Ticket to Ride and you're worried they're not going to have the attention span or they're going to be, not going to be able to get into it for some reason, this is a great way to get them started. One that I will be keeping in my collection to play in my classroom. Another game we have is Scribbleish from Cranium. This one is this is Telestrations / Scrawl / Cat Poop. I think that's the name of the original game, where you're going to get something crazy, then you're going to have to draw it, and somebody else is going to have to guess what you drew, then they're going to write down that, and somebody's going to have to draw what that person guessed, and blah, 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 blah. You're going to do it over and over. But the unique thing is it actually has like these little scrolls that you roll things up into, and there's this interesting scoring system where you actually have to guess what picture is yours, and you get to give people points for being the funniest. It was okay. I like the other versions better, so this one is going to be one I give away to a kid in my class because I didn't like it. Continuing onward, we have Trade on the Tigris from Tasty Minstrel Games, and wow, this is a spectacular game from Tasty Minstrel Games, and yes, I know they sponsor me, so it might sound like I'm a shill, but let me tell you, I tell you the truth, this is my top 3 favorite Tasty Minstrel Games. It's up there with Orleans, and it's up there with Pioneer Days, and this one actually might be number 2 behind Pioneer Days. I need to play it a couple more times, but man, this is one of my new go-to 6-player games. It's all about trading, negotiating, deceiving people potentially. Really, really like this game. Has a lot of cool aspects. It's a very simple game, but at the same time, it's a very stressful, brain-burny type of game. This is definitely one. Don't let it fly under your radar. Trade on the Tigris. Awesome, awesome game. Like that one an awful lot. Instantly going into my collection. Next, we have Rumus from, who the hell knows? Educational Insights. This is your typical stacking game, except you're building, ancient Mayan or Aztec structures like, I don't know, tomes, or I don't know what you're building. You're building stuff out of these really thick, chunky plastic components, which are actually super nice. And you actually get like this little turntable here, too, to turn it around. I'm not a big abstract strategy game guy, and I've played tons of building games. Very few of them really impressed me, but this one actually was pretty good, and I enjoyed it. I'm not going to keep it because it's not my style of game, and I'm not going to play it ever again, probably. I just played it for review purposes, but still, this one, if you like abstract strategy games and building games, this is one to keep your eye on. You probably find this one cheap at a thrift store or a Goodwill or something like that. Pick this one up if you're in the market for an abstract strategy game. I did enjoy it, despite the fact I'm not going to be keeping it, just because it's not my particular cup of tea. Continuing onward, we have the Noodle Time, the Noodle Game from Bananagrams. This game is hot garbage. It is a very simple game. You're going to get chopsticks, children's chopsticks, and you're going to be dipping them into there to try to get noodles out and try to get noodles onto your plate. But where it gets difficult is if you grab 2 noodles, then your turn is over. If you drop the noodles on the table, then your turn is over. Oh, and did I forget to mention everyone else at the table is also going to be having to try to grab the noodle that you grabbed out of the bowl. So essentially, if you're playing this 4 players, 3 people are all just going to be all in your face trying to grab the noodle while you're trying to get the noodle on your bowl. Every time I've played this game, the game has ended at a certain point because we could not finish the game as per the actual specifications, or it would take an hour to finish the game. That's how hard it is to get these noodles from this box onto the bowl. It's stupid. Go play Chinese or what is it? Not Chinese. Mega Chopstick Dexterity Challenge 3000. So the one game that Mayday Games released is way better than this one. I'm going to play a chopstick game. Next, we have Monster Crunch, the breakfast battle game from Big G Creative. This is a ladder-style game where you are going to be trying to play a number higher than other people. It's got some one-time use special abilities. Every character has 2 of them. It has some interesting bells and whistles, and I wanted to like this game because I thought it was fun and I thought it was good, but it was not good enough to keep for me. I kept searching for the strategy. Each time I played the game, I was like, I know there's some strategy here, and I just need to find it. I need to seize that strategy, and then I'll really start understanding the nuances of this game. And every time I tried, and other people tried that I was playing, I was like, did you really see too much strategy there? Like, not really. And so for that reason, I can't keep it. I think it's a good game. I don't think it's a great game, but let's be brutally honest here. If this had any other theme, you would have no interest in this game whatsoever. Continuing onward. Oh, not going to my collection. Next, we have Squint, the game where pictures take shapes. This is a really difficult game in which you're going to have a whole boatload of these square tiles that are going to have different symbols on them, and you have to make different things by putting them together and moving and pointing at them and doing all sorts of stuff. In theory, it's a pretty fun game, and it is a pretty fun game, but in practice, you get some issues because the timer is not long enough. If you double the timer, it becomes a much better game, and I did enjoy the game, but I didn't enjoy enough to keep it. Squint is one that if you like party games and you routinely play party games, you like these abstract-y type of games where everyone's going to be involved because everyone is actively involved in this game, Squint is worth checking out. I'd say it's a good to very good game, but not great, which means I'm not keeping it. Continuing on, we have Team Up, yet another one of those stacking games where you're going to be trying to stack blocks on top of other blocks to score points. This one, however, is a cooperative puzzle-style game. It didn't do it for me. I liked it better than I was expecting to, but I still may say, yeah, it's good, but it's not even very good or great. I think if you like build-up style games, this could be very good, but still, once again, not a great game. The kids I played it with enjoyed it. It was a little bit too puzzly for me, and I almost felt like they say in the rules that you can make a perfect rectangle, which is what your goal is, to make like this perfect rectangle out of all these wooden shapes on this palette. But when you shuffle up the cards, there is a very distinct possibility that you can no longer make that goal. So imagine if you were playing Hanabi and they just took out like 6 cards. You'd be like, well, now we can't get the perfect score, which is the whole goal of the game. No, it's not one for me. I am actually not getting rid of that. My buddy Eric wanted it. He called dibs on it at Gen Con, so he was going to get it regardless of whether or not I loved it, which I didn't. I thought it was okay. I thought it was okay to quit. Continuing on, we have Blank Slate, which is a target game from USAopoly, in which it's a very simple party-style game where there's going to be a word. It's a blank house, for instance, and that's actually the example on the back of the box, and then everybody has to write down their answer on a dry erase pad. The dry erase pads, I gotta mention, they're very nice. They're raised, so even if they're on the table and you go like this, your stuff's not gonna get erased. So big thumbs up on that innovation. And you score points if you match with only one person. If you match points with more than one person, you still score a point, but you're hoping to match with only one person to get 3 points. It says ages 8+. I brought it in my classroom. It bombed because we just couldn't come up with that many answers, and a lot of the times the kids were just like, I don't know what to write, and they'd write silly answers. Well, not silly answers, like answers that if an adult wrote, you'd be like, are you okay? That's a really dumb answer. That sort of thing. It just was not a great game. I did not have fun with it. I am not keeping it. I'll give it to Eric, see if he likes it, but for me personally, not one worth recommending. Next, we have Zero from Blue Orange Games. This was actually a really enjoyable Reiner Knizia game where you had to get the total of your hand to 0, I do believe. I haven't played it in a while. I brought it into my classroom. It actually sat on my shelf after I reviewed it, and I was like, yeah, I just never see the instance where I'm going to want to play this. Then I brought it into my classroom, and I was like, yeah, surely this is good played. And it just never got played, and it's been so long that it's never gotten played, that boom, it is now out of the collection. Also, another game in that same ilk is Pirates of the Gold Cove, which is actually a really great trick-taking game from Mind's Eye Games. I really enjoyed this one, played in my classroom a good deal with the kids, and they liked it. And the kids that I used to play it with actually all graduated. Now they're too old to be in the classroom, and it's been sitting there for a while, and I feel like there's better trick-taking games I have at my house with more meat on the bones, and it's just taking up space in my classroom, so this one out of the collection as well. Speaking of another game that I thought was great, I really enjoyed Viral from Arcade Wonders. I think it's a very awesome game. It's actually, I will say that I think it is the weakest game in their collection, though. It's close. It's close. Not saying that in a bad way. That's how much I like Arcade Wonders. Viral is a really mean area control game that I enjoyed a good deal, but it sat on my shelf. It never got played. It never got played. It never got played, and now it is gone, unfortunately. But still a game that I can recommend if you like area control games and if you don't have a stupid amount of games so you can actually get games to the table. Next, we have Think Again from Yellow. This was another game that, once again, brought into my classroom. I was okay with it. I thought it was okay to good. The kids liked it an awful lot, but those kids, they graduated. It's been sitting in there for a while, so now, boom, it's gone. Next, we have Deuce. Twice as much fun as any other card game. That's actually a lie, but it is still a good old-school 1985 style game. It's a Uno-esque game where you have to lay down cards, either matching the color or the number, but the interesting aspect is you're going to have 2 cards in front of you, and you can only go out if you have the highest combined total of cards in front of you. So you're going to be playing on everybody else's hands. There's a couple special cards that mix up the game. Actually, this one is going into my school collection. It would not stay in my collection at home, but it will go in my collection at school, see if it gets played there. I actually really did enjoy this one. I think it's a good game. Next, we have High Society, a game by Reiner Knizia. This one is an auction light bluffing game in which you are going to first be bidding on the stuff. Well, it's primarily bidding. It's all bidding. What am I talking about? I'm thinking of For Sale. I'm going to compare it to For Sale because a lot of people compare it to For Sale. It was a really great game. I enjoyed it. I'm glad it's reprinted and highly recommend this one. It has these really large cards, which are really well done. And essentially, it's just a straight-up bidding game. You have a set amount of cards, and you're going to be bidding on points pretty much, and there's like halves and times twos and stuff like that, and I really enjoyed this game. It's a nice light filler game. It's Reiner Knizia, so there's no real theme whatsoever, but it really gives you these difficult choices because, yes, you might be willing to spend the money on something, but towards the end of the game, having cards is incredibly valuable because the person who has the fewest amount of money at the end of the game is eliminated. The least amount of money, I should say. Really, really enjoy this one. If you've been thinking about getting the reprint, getting the game, or getting the reprint, pull the trigger on it. Really great game into my collection. Next, we have Costume Party Assassins from Playroom Entertainment and Ultra Pro Entertainment. Apparently, if you do an interview with them, you have to mention Ultra Pro or else they can lose their licensing or something. Not quite sure what that's about, but this is my channel, so I'm just going to say Playroom Entertainment. I don't care. But this is a really simple game in which you're going to be moving guests around in a party trying to slowly assassinate people while remaining anonymous. I played it in my classroom. We talked about, and we made it into sending people away from the party. Like, you have to leave the party. Somebody keyed your car or vandalized your car or something like that, or we don't like you. You smell bad. It actually went over really well in my classroom. It went over pretty well on my game night as a nice light filler game, and this is one I'm going to be keeping for the time being, primarily because it goes up to 6 players, and it's a nice light filler game. I do like this one, and it also has absolutely gorgeous meeples. Next, we have Barbarian Battlegrounds from Greenbrier Games. This is a really interesting dice placement game where you're playing as these 4 bear clans, and you're going to roll dice and put them behind your little screen you have here, and your goal is to get 7 victory points, but it's not going to be that easy because other people are going to be stealing your victory points by fighting you. So you're going to have to be playing dice out to fight other people, you're going to be putting out dice out to battle, but you're also going to be putting dice to collecting resources. You're going to be able to turn those resources in to get yourself special upgrades. I really like how this game works. I think it's an expansion and a good rule booklet away from being a really great game. Right now, I think it's good to very good, but it is a light filler weight dice placement game. I'm going to keep it for the time being. Like it an awful lot, but I can't wait for an expansion for this one. I hope it's popular, so that way we can get an expansion for it, because I think that will really unlock the potential of that game. Next, we have Master of the Galaxy, which right now might be my favorite game coming out of Gen Con 2018. It's close. There's been some really spectacular games. Nothing's earned a Bauer's Best seal yet, but Master of the Galaxy was super duper close. If it was 5 players, it totally would have. So this is a 4X game in which you are going to be trying to rule the galaxy in a variety of different ways. But it has tech trees. It has a really interesting way to take cards, and it really feels like whichever strategy you want to take in this game, you can take. And it's not the kind of game where if you get screwed out of your first strategy, you're probably going to lose the game, because the cards are so powerful in this game that you can just find a card and be like, oh, that's my new strategy, and you could potentially have a puncher's chance to win the game. Really dug this one. I hope this one hits the table on a routine basis, because I liked it an awful lot. Immediately going into my collection, actually to replace Viral. So yeah, Master of the Galaxy from Ares Games. Really dig that one. Next, we have Battle for Souls. This one is not a political statement, in case you are wondering, because the creator of the game actually came out and did some stuff that ticked off a whole lot of people. I could care less about any of that stuff. I'm here to talk about games. This is a really great two-player game. I really liked it an awful lot, but here's the thing. The person that I would primarily play this game with is my wife, and my wife is not that big into games, and I don't think she would like a game like this, but man, this is a really great game. This is a very interesting game, and I wholeheartedly recommend checking this game out. I like it an awful lot. I thought it was great, but one that I just don't get too many two-player games to the table unless, of course, I'm in the process of reviewing them. Like, I have to get specific two-player game nights with buddies to do that. Next, we have Fluff. This is Liar's Dice, which I love Liar's Dice. Look, there's 2 copies right here, and there's 2 copies at my work as well. That should tell you how much I like Liar's Dice. And actually, there's a copy of Naruto up there, which is another ripoff of Liar's Dice. And this is a ripoff of Liar's Dice, but they decided, hey, we're going to take that Liar's Dice formula, and we're going to make it 4 players, because people like playing Liar's Dice with less players. No. Actually, it's the other way around. They like playing it with more players. Despite the fact that it has really cool dice cups, which I actually like an awful lot, and some nice custom dice, this is dumb. Why would anyone want this? It's dull Liar's Dice, but for less players, and they dumb down some of the rules. So no. Avoid this. Go get a 99-cent copy of Liar's Dice from the local thrift store. Next, we have Top Spin, which is a really dumb game. I'm going to tell you about this really dumb game that I'm keeping because I really think it's fun. So this is a game where you're going to spin a top in a box that is full of these wooden marbles. Yeah, you heard me. That's the whole game. You were going to take turns spinning this top into this box full of marbles, trying to get the marbles into these little tiny holes. But it's dumb fun. I like it a lot. The kids in my class really enjoyed it. It's got 2 different game modes to play, and I like both of them. And for mindless, stupid family fun or filler weight fun, I liked it. And not to mention the battle mode, you could literally play with any number of players. And I do plan on a local gaming tournament running a big tournament of this game one day. I think it'd be great to just pass this around a big table with like 15, 20 people and slowly making people leave the table as they get eliminated. I think this one's actually a good deal of fun. I like Top Spin, and I will be keeping it. Next, we have the double combination from Cranio Creations, Pink and Jungle Race. I'm going to talk about both of them at the same time because they both really disappointed me. And actually, let's go on a little rant here. 2018 Gen Con, you might notice there's a lot of games from that, and most of the companies, they brought great to very good stuff to Gen Con. 2 companies in particular did not. That would be Bananagrams, who released Noodle Game and Fluff. Both these games not worth recommending. And Cranio Creations, who I don't know if they were selling these games, and they're new releases, but I think they're more in the process of shopping these to other companies, and neither of them is particularly good. So Pank is a very simple Yahtzee-esque style game where you're going to be rolling dice and trying to get trying to get 5 of a kind, 4 of a kind, 3 of a kind of different numbers and filling in this little score pad. And it had the potential to be a good game that I did enjoy, but it doesn't have a solo mode, and the only reason it doesn't have a solo mode is because screw you, we're not putting in a solo mode. I feel like I could create a solo mode for this game. It's just super lazy that they didn't put it in there. So yeah, Pank did not make the cut in my collection. And also there's Jungle Race, which is a really light, simple, ages 6+ family weight game. And you're like, Bauer, you were kids that young, you got a 5-year-old, this should be right up your alley. And I say, yeah, it should, but it's not, because it's boring. And none of the kids in my class were particularly enthralled by it. And all of them were like, can we play something else? It has that awesome factor that I love in a nice family/children's game where any kid can play. They can just play down cards and they have a puncher's chance to win the game. But the bottom line is it's just not fun. It's just, hey, look, I'm moving the blue card. Oh, now I'm moving the green card. Oh, now I'm moving the red card. And like, oh, now I'm moving the yellow card. It's like, is there anything else in this game? No, there's not. It's boring. And I also found out this amazing thing when I reviewed both these games. Actually, when I was reviewing this game, they're both created by the same person, Simone Luciani. So that person, male, female, I can't tell with a name like that because I believe it is a French name. They really screwed the pooch on both these games. Neither of them I can recommend to you. Continuing on, we have Shake Up, a step-by-step game of strategy. This is a really light, simple dice-rolling game in which you're actually going to be climbing these thick plastic pieces to the top of this 3D structure, trying to get your pieces in there. I actually had a good deal of fun with this game. It is completely luck-driven, completely random, but still a fun dice-rolling game. I'm not going to be keeping it, but I am going to be giving it away to a kid in my classroom, or I might actually keep it in my classroom to play. I will decide tomorrow. You know what? I'm actually not going to keep it, because look at the box. That's a big box. Too big for me. That's going to be a game that a kid takes home and has a lot of fun with. Last but not least, we have Sports... Well, I shouldn't say that, because we're going to do another one after this. Sports Size Football from Funwiz / whatever they name it. Funwiz is an off-brand of some other smaller... I don't remember. it's Fun Whiz, but it's not really Fun Whiz. They spun it off into a different company name that just focuses kind of much on sports dice. This is the sequel slash, whatever, to Sports Dice Baseball, which I really enjoyed. Released last year, Sports Dice Football. It's 100% luck-driven football game. There are some choices to be made, and I did enjoy the choices in this game. But if you like football and you have a kid that likes football, if you have maybe somebody you go to a bar with or a restaurant with that likes football, this is actually a really great football game. I enjoyed the living snot out of this game. This is one that's immediately going into my collection. I'm going to play it with my son for a very long time. This is the kind of game that, honestly, I could see myself playing with either of my sons for the next 20 years because it is easy to learn, easy to teach, dirt simple. Sports Dice Football. Really enjoyed this one. Alright, the next game we're taking a look at is Good Critters from Arcane Wonders. This one is staying in my collection, even though it was very underwhelming to me. I think it's just a good game. I was expecting great, spectacular, fantastic from Arcane Wonders and the Dice Tower Essentials line. This one I thought was good, but the reason I'm keeping is because it plays 8 players very well, and it still has a gamery aspect at 8 players, which not too many games do, so it's going to be kind of a niche game for me, staying in the collection. Going out of the collection, we have For the Birds from Breaking Games. And I've got a new rule that I just made up as I was looking for games to get rid of now, which is if I can't remember why I plan on keeping a game, that game needs to go. Just, a lot of them are dusty. But if I can't remember why specifically I'm keeping the game, they gotta go. I remember For the Birds was a fun, abstract strategy game, which is not something I say often, but I remember I liked it more than everybody else I played it with, and I just don't see it hitting the table again, despite the fact that it's some cool birds. So For the Birds, out of here. Same thing, Witches of the Revolution. I remember this being a really stinking cool deck-building game that I thought was really good from last year's Gen Con, and I liked it a lot, but hasn't hit the table since I reviewed it. Big layer of dust, and I don't remember what made this game unique, so it is gone. Plus, there's so many other deck-building games that I really, 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 really like. Next, we have Chronicles of Crime, which, hold up, this is an absolutely outstanding game. I think this game is probably going to get a Bowers Best Seal when it gets its full release, but this is the prototype. That's how much I like this game. I kept the prototype, which I don't typically do, but the final game is starting to ship, so the prototype, which is the size of the regular box, is gone. So that one's kind of a cheat, but still, hey, it's gone. Next, we have Fleecing Olympus. This is a great, very fast and frantic game. So it's a really odd game. It's a really simple game in which you are going to be trying to acquire gems in front of you, and it's going to have this middle period where it's just absolutely fast and frantic and hectic because something's going to happen, and then you have to deal with that something, and everybody's dealing with it at the same time, and two people are involved. So one person is trying to steal money from somebody else, but everybody else is going to be playing all these modifiers, and it's a negotiation game, so like, I can change this, I can make it so it's good for you, but you gotta give me $4, give me $4, give me $4, and everybody's talking at the same time, and everybody's talking over each other. It's fast, it's frantic, it's hectic, and it plays really, really well at the higher player counts. One of my new go-to shorter 6-player games, that is Fleecing Olympus. Really like that one. Next, we have Tags, a really interesting team game in which you are going to try to think up words based on categories and letters. It's a really simple party-esque style game, family weight-esque style game. I like it an awful lot. Does things very differently. This one's going into the collection. Really interesting game. That one I was debating on giving to Eric because I think it would get played more at his house. And now that I say that, you know what? Actually, it's going in the Eric pile. So this one, I'm getting it out of the house, but it is going in the Eric piles. Right now, I have a couple different piles. And yeah, I should probably tell you what the piles are. So first, I have the pile of games that I'm just getting rid of that eventually I will sell. They go into the death closet one day. They're just gone. And then I have a pile of games that I'm not putting in the death closet, which right now would be Chronicles of Crimes, which I'm going to use for components and just take the components that are not inappropriate, bring them into my classroom so my kids can make up their own games because they love doing that. Then I have the games that are going to Eric's house, and then I have the games that I'm keeping. So there's 4 separate piles going on right now. Next we have Pyramid of Ping Queen. There's going to be a 5th pile in a second. Pyramid of Ping Queen. This is a really great, I'd say it's a great game where one person's on one side of the screen and the other team is on the other side of the screen, but they're not a team. They're actually competing against each other, but the other people are. And one person's playing as the Ping Queen and trying to go around and catching all these kids, penguin kids, who are going around trying to collect things. Really simple, light family game, but very cool. It also works as an adult game as well. Much more like a children's game and family game, but still a lot of fun. great family game I can recommend. Next we have Fruit Ninja Combo Party, which I thought was good. I didn't think it was great. I would rather play Jungle Speed. And it has some of the Jungle Speed-esque elements where you're going to be grabbing like this ninja sword from the middle of the table. But honestly, as a family game, I think this is a good family game. This one is going to go into my classroom. So that's another pile, but technically that's the prototype pile. So that goes into that pile, going into my classroom. Next we have Dino Party. This one, ages 6+. This is a good family and children's game, and I'm keeping it for my son. I don't think it's good enough personally to stay on my shelves or on my classroom shelves, but the kids had a lot of fun with it, and my son wants to play it again, so I am keeping it for the time being in my house so I can play it with my 5-year-old son, who is huge into dinosaurs, because, you know, dinosaurs are awesome. Next we have Farm Friends, which is really bad. It's terrible. Ravensburger, how did you do this to us? It is a roll and move game. There's no choices to be made whatsoever, except for which animal do I take, but that has absolutely no bearing on who wins or loses the game. This one is actually just going to go get scrapped for pieces. I would give it to a kid, because some of the kids did have fun with it, but it's actually missing a couple pieces, so I'm just going to scrap it for components. So it's in the scrap for components pot. Next, we have Chick-a-Pig, partially designed by Dave Matthews of Dave Matthews Band fan. This one went over a lot better than I thought it was. It's an abstract strategy game where you were trying to get your Chick-a-Pigs from one side of the board to the other side of the board, and it actually went over really, really well. A lot more well than I was expecting. Now, some of the cards are wildly imbalanced, and you need to know this is primarily a family weight game, but it has a really nostalgic feel to it. I said in the review, it feels like this is the kind of game that could be on a Cracker Barrel, like at the top at like Cracker Barrel restaurant, where you just play it outside. It's all made out of wood. It's got completely wood components. I think it was all made in America, except for the plastic pieces, which I find funny. And I like it. I think it's good enough to stay in my collection, despite the fact it's an abstract strategy game. This one is going into the classroom if it will fit in the shelf. If it doesn't fit in the shelf, then this one will probably go to the death closet. It'll be gone, because here's the thing. I don't think it's going to get played at my house, but at school it will get played. But if it doesn't fit into the shelf because of how wide the side of the box is, well, we'll see. We will see. Next, we have Zoorika. This one is going into my kids' pile for games and giving away to kids if they have good behavior days, and it's okay. You roll and move, and you go around the board, and you trade in goods to make habitats, and it's blah. It's your typical mass market sort of thing. It does have an interesting aspect where you can kind of gamble on what thing is going to roll on the dice each time, which is neat. The kids like that, but it's also kind of broken. There's some very wildly swingy stuff in that, because, hey, when we make kids games, we've got to be wild and swingy, right? No, you don't have to be wild and swingy. Next, we got some games leaving the collection. A whole bunch of them. RPG Merchant Tycoon. Why? Because I can't tell you why it was in the collection in the first place. Next, we have Okie Dokie, which I remember being an enjoyable cooperative card game from Tasty Minstrel Games. Yeah, I do get rid of TMG games sometimes. I remember enjoying this game. I think it was good, but I look at the size of this box, and I look at the other games near it, and there's like Hanabi and The Mind and some other really, really good stuff. And I'm like, would I ever grab Okie Dokie over those games? And I say to myself, no, I wouldn't. So you're gone. Next, we have Deathbot Derby, which is a really cool game where you're going to be moving around your Deathbot trying to kill people. Restricted player count, really 2 or 4 players. It never hits the table, so yeah, gone. Those are going into the death closet. Next, we have Penny Papers, the Temple of a Peekaboo. So this is a roll and write game, and there's 3 in this series. I'm keeping the 7-year-old one. There's a 7-year-old one, an 8-year-old one, and a 9-year-old one. This one's really good. It's going into my classroom. Kids like playing it. I like playing it. I like playing it solo, too. I enjoy it. I like the 8-year-old one a little bit better, so I'm going to keep that one as well. 9-year-old, not nearly as hot at. That one I'm probably going to get rid of. But yeah, this one is going into the classroom. Next, we have the Institute for Magical Arts, which I remember was a really good to great 2-player game. I don't remember what you do in it. It's been sitting up there collecting dust for probably about 2 years now, so it is gone. Plus, I don't play 2-player games nearly as much as I would like to. Next, we have the Powerpuff Games Girl, which is, yeah, you guessed it, it's pretty bad. Yeah, it's bad. There are some gamery elements to it, which I like, but really the game sucks, and I'm going to scrap it for components because it is also missing pieces. Next, we have Handy from Simply Fun. This is not a fun game. It is simple. It is not fun. Simply Fun. Stop lying to people. This is a game where you're going to be putting balls, and you're going to be balancing balls in your hand, but with somebody else's hand, and then you're going to have like a little ball tree up here where you're trying to not drop balls. Everybody's hands are going to be in the middle, and you're not trying not to drop balls. If you do drop a ball, then your team loses a ball, and everybody else gets all their balls back, and then you rinse, wash, repeat, you over and 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 over forever until one team has completely ran out of balls. Which, by the way, if you're playing with 6 players, would be freaking forever. No exaggeration. But here's the kicker. They expect you to do that 3 times. You do it over the course of 3 rounds. So no thank you. It's not fun. Kids didn't have fun. Adults didn't have fun. I didn't have fun. I bet if the Mona Lisa, like the lady that posed for the portrait, played this, she would not have fun. And that was in like the 1600s when there was minimal forms of entertainment. So yeah, Handy. Not one I can recommend. This one is going into the classroom to give to a kid, who then will give it to his family, and his family will have to play it with him, and they will not have fun with it. Next, we have Orc Olympics from Brain Games. This one is good. It's not great. Some people might think it's very good. It's a very light, simple, filler weight game, and I'm torn between whether or not just getting rid of this or putting it into my classroom. What's the player count? 2 to 5, 15 minutes. It plays really short and sweet. Here's the thing, though. When I teach this game, I normally have to teach it twice because kids get really overzealous. There's like this really interesting sort of auctioning phase where you're competing for prizes in the Orc Olympics, and you're using your cards to compete for prizes, but you have at most 8 cards, so kids get way too crazy. They'll spend like 3 cards to win 3 points, and I'll be like, later in the game, I'll be like, oh, I'm spending 1 card to win 7 points. Yeah, I think this one, I'm just gonna go ahead and this one's gone. I'm just going to get rid of it. It's gone. I really was not sure whether or not it was going away. And I think it is, because I think I have better games in my classroom already. So Orc Olympics. The first game from Brain Games. Leaving my collection. Gone. Next, we have Welcome to the Jungle from Coffee Cake Games. This is currently on Kickstarter, and dear God, do not back it. It is really, really... it had a lot of good ideas. It did. And there's a great game somewhere in here, but they ruined it with wildly swingy mechanisms. I have not played a game like this in quite some time. Not to mention, this is the prototype box, but it's really big. So this is a game that takes 1 to 2 hours in which you are trying to be animals and be drug dealers and take over different spots of turf on the board. You start off your turn by spinning this spinner right here. People can gamble on this spinner, which of the 4 quadrants is going to land on. You have a 1 in 4 chance to win. If you win, you double up, which is massively huge. If you lose everything you put on there, which is also massively huge. But this game deals in huge swings. So you spin this spinner, you can get yourself $1,000, which is really stinking big. It is just gigantic. $1,000 in this game is humongous, stupendously large. Or you could, for instance, get $100. Or you could, for instance, get a smash and grab card, which you don't really want. Or you can be robbed, which means you lose everything you have. All your money, all your drugs. If you happen to be holding on to it from turn to turn because you could not spend it on something, it's all gone. That's not fun. There's just so much in this game that is incredibly random and wild and swingy, and it's way too long. There's a downtime between turns. You could potentially have 15 to 20 minutes of downtime between turns where you're not actively involved at all if a bunch of other people, well, the other people are doing turf wars. And that's not fun. That's not fun. This is one of those games where it's just like, what the hell? Did no one sit you aside during playtesting and say, here, I think that perhaps this should be fixed, and this should be fixed, and this should be fixed, and this should be fixed. I think this should be streamlined. I think you should probably just get rid of this idea. Nobody set them aside and said that, apparently. Or they just ignore it. And in the end, you have a game with absolutely gorgeous artwork, very simple gameplay, but not a game I can recommend to anybody. This one's getting scrapped for parts. That's Welcome to the Jungle. Next, we have Touchdown and Fold It. We'll put them together because they're both making the collection from Happy Bow Bob Games. So Touchdown is this really fun abstract strategy game, which I don't say too terribly often. It's replacing For the Birds, apparently. But this one's actually going to get played. It's going in my classroom. It's a really simple game in which you have to get your animals from one side of the board to the other side of the board. Sounds a little bit like Chicken Pig. Ooh, getting 2 of those in there. But there's like walls, and you have to jump over them, and it's got like a checker-y-esque aspect, which Chicken Pig also does. Huh. Interesting. I'll be interested to see which one of these stays in my collection longer. And then we have Fold It, which is an incredibly simple player elimination folding game where you're going to have a pattern that you have to put out there. You're going to have this cloth, and you are going to have to fold your cloth to look like that pattern. And the first person to do it does it, grabs a chip. Second person to do it grabs a chip. And the last person, however many players you're playing with, does not get a chip, and they lose one of their chips. One of their hearts, and if you lose all your hearts, you're eliminated from the game. Very light, simple player elimination game. Went over really well in my classroom. Really well as a lightweight filler game, too. A lot of fun with this one. Like it a lot. It's very, very different. That is Fold It from Happy Bao Bop, one that is going into my collection. And they're sending me another folding game in a month or two as well, which I'm excited about because I love the concept of folding games. But that is Games In, Games Out. I feel like it's getting longer each and every time, especially after Gen Con with all the freaking games. But man, so many good games coming out at Gen Con. My shelves are overflowing to the point that there's stuff on the ground, there's stuff on tables, there's stuff on floors, there's stuff everywhere, there's stuff on my table. I need to get it reviewed, I need to get it out, but I'm just one man. Just one man. But yeah, good problem to have. So there you go. If you like this thing that I'm doing, be sure to click on that subscribe button down below. And in the comments below, let me know what's the last game that you got rid of out of your collection. I actually just finally purged my kill closet. My closet where I put all the games that I'm trying to get rid of. And I took them to a local garage sale, the board game garage sale that's hosted by a local game shop. And then I also took the rest to half-price books. So everything that didn't get sold, I just took to half-price books. I got a grand total of $220, which I gave up. I sold 98 games. And I was walking out of half-price books, and I was just like, I just gave them like $1,000 right there. I pretty much just handed them money because I know they're going to sell a whole bunch of those games for 20 to 30 bucks because I gave them like big box stuff, a lot of big box stuff. But it was the kind of thing where it's just like, I just want it out of my collection. I just want it gone so that way I can put more stuff into the kill closet. Because it was about to start overflowing, and there was going to be a point where a whole bunch of boxes were going to tip over and components were going to go everywhere, and I was just going to be like, I was just going to burn my whole house down. That was what I was going to do. Because I'm not unsorting out all those components, so I feel like burning the house down is the most logical step. Plus, if I don't get caught, man, insurance money up the ass too. I get like $300,000 for my house if it burns down. Which, let me tell you, it's a $40,000 house. $44,000 when we bought it, so $300,000. As long as everybody gets out safe, I am more than happy to do that. Not to mention all my obligations to review everything I've had and be like, sorry guys, house burned down. Maybe you guys, yeah. So that would be, be a weight off my shoulder. I would still continue the channel, but I don't know how I'd continue the channel. That'd be interesting. This discussion has gone on way too long. If you couldn't tell, I've drank 2 cups of coffee this morning. But there you go. Thanks for your time, YouTube.